Was I surprised? I wasn't. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised, because if you have peripheral vision, you're going to sense these things out of the corner of your eye. You can't not know that this has been going on rampantly.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Steven Spielberg doesn't speak out unless it's serious. And when he allegedly warned Disney in 2023 that Rachel Zegler was trouble, it wasn't some casual industry whisper. It was a full-on red flag from one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. Insiders say the conversation wasn't just offhanded. Spielberg, who had just wrapped directing Zegler in the long-awaited remake of West Side Story, had seen enough behind the scenes to pick up the phone and personally advise Disney execs to tread carefully. The woman he'd once championed, plucked from obscurity and thrust into a role made iconic by Natalie Wood, had, according to him, shown flashes of behavior that made her a liability.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
They won't even say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
Never let anybody tell you can't do what you in your heart know you can.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means, and one could argue that sometimes it's used too liberally. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
And the other thing is simply to use what you're using right now to get this interview, and you can make an entire movie on that device right there.
Not an asset. And that wasn't speculation. Sources close to the production allege that Spielberg was deeply frustrated by the experience. While he maintained public professionalism, privately, he reportedly didn't hold back. Some say he called her a PR disaster waiting to happen, while others say he simply warned, "She's not who you think she is." Either way, the message landed.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension: racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
Oh my God.
Disney apparently didn't listen. They moved forward anyway, casting Zegler as the lead in their billion-dollar reboot of Snow White, despite the silent warning from Hollywood's most trusted storyteller. And now, the industry is asking whether Spielberg was right all along, because since that moment, Zegler's career.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
And you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
Has spiraled from the next big thing to the most talked-about cautionary tale in the business. Between her social media controversies, on-set feuds, and a Snow White box office catastrophe that's already become infamous, many are now realizing Spielberg may have seen the writing on the wall years before anyone else. And if he, the man behind Jurassic Park,
it's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Schindler's List, and E.T. saw something worth warning the House of Mouse about. That alone should have been enough to stop them in their tracks. But Disney gambled. And now, the fallout is too big to ignore. Rachel Zegler's rise to fame wasn't just fast, it was explosive. At just 17, she landed the role of a lifetime as Maria in West Side Story.
Hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
She came out and she said, "I apologize. I went too far." But it wasn't sincere.
Beating out 30,000 other hopefuls in an international open casting call. Spielberg himself selected her. On paper, it was the stuff of dreams. A high school student from New Jersey transformed overnight into a Hollywood leading lady under the direction of a legend. But that dream quickly got messy.
Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements. His first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so funny.
In a bombshell interview, Zegler revealed that throughout the casting process, she was allegedly pressured by executives to repeatedly prove her Latina identity. According to her, questions kept coming about her name, her background, even her language skills, making the experience feel less like an audition and more like an interrogation. I had to constantly defend my identity.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs, but they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it, the disability, like we're a disability group. You just erased that whole.
She said, as if being Latina needed a permission slip. The comment struck a nerve, not only in Hollywood but across social media. Some applauded her for speaking out, but others questioned why she waited so long to say something, and whether calling out the production publicly, especially one helmed by Spielberg, was the wisest move. Some insiders even claim Spielberg was blindsided by her remarks, which painted the film.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
And, by extension, his team, in a questionable light, and it didn't stop there. After the film's release, Zegler continued to draw attention not for her performance, which many critics found flat compared to the praise showered on Ariana DeBose, but for her growing list of controversies. While West Side Story failed to become the box office smash many expected, the drama surrounding Zegler was just getting started. The same project that was supposed to launch her into superstardom was now becoming a footnote in a much bigger story. The tale of how Spielberg's Golden Girl became Hollywood's biggest liability. And as we'll see in the next section, the trouble on set was far worse than anyone imagined. At first, everything looked perfect on paper. A fresh-faced breakout star, a legendary director, an iconic film revival. But while West Side Story dazzled critics on the outside, the atmosphere on set reportedly told a very different story. One laced with tension, frustration, and what some insiders now describe as a complete mismatch in professionalism. Sources close to the production have alleged that Rachel Zegler's behavior on set grew increasingly erratic as filming progressed. According to multiple accounts, she clashed with department heads over wardrobe decisions, challenged Spielberg on key creative choices, and allegedly came across as dismissive of senior crew members, all while navigating her first ever feature film. What started as innocent confidence apparently evolved into something more problematic: entitlement. Spielberg, who is known for running disciplined yet collaborative sets, was reportedly shocked by how quickly things deteriorated. One assistant director even claimed Zegler routinely arrived late to set, often surrounded by a growing entourage, and that basic rehearsals would drag out because of last-minute adjustments she insisted on. At first, Spielberg defended her, chalking it up to nerves or inexperience. But by mid-production, the mood had changed. The turning point? According to one anonymous crew member, there was a blow-up over a key musical number that Zegler wanted rewritten to sound more modern. Spielberg reportedly had to step in, shut it down, and restore order. After that, he kept interactions with her cordial but distant. Once filming wrapped, insiders say Spielberg quietly began distancing himself. He skipped certain press events and refused to comment directly on Zegler's performance, even as other cast members received glowing praise. But most damning of all was the rumor that started swirling in early 2023 that Spielberg had warned Disney executives during a high-level meeting not to cast her in anything else without fully vetting her behavior on West Side Story. To be clear, Spielberg didn't go public. He didn't need to. In Hollywood, silence from someone like Spielberg is a statement. And apparently, behind closed doors, he made sure Disney understood one thing: Rachel Zegler was not the easygoing ingenue they thought she was. She was volatile, and if not managed, carefully, she could sink a production from the inside out. Despite Spielberg's alleged warning and the whispered concerns making their way through Hollywood's executive circles, Disney decided to double down. In what many now call a reckless gamble, they cast Rachel Zegler as the titular role in their live-action remake of Snow White. On paper, it was a bold, progressive move. In practice, it was a publicity disaster waiting to happen. From the moment the casting was announced, backlash flooded social media. Critics immediately pointed to the obvious contradiction. Rachel Zegler, a proud Latina actress, was cast as a character famously described as having skin as white as snow. And while many fans applauded the diverse casting, a vocal segment of Disney's traditional audience accused the studio of abandoning the original fairy tale for the sake of modern branding. But things only got worse when Zegler herself entered the chat. Instead of calming the waters, she ignited a firestorm with a string of interviews where she proudly declared that this Snow White would be nothing like the original. She called the 1937 classic weird and outdated. She said Snow White won't be saved by the prince and that this version would be a feminist reboot. The internet exploded. Fans of the original film felt insulted. Critics blasted Zegler for what they saw as a smug, self-righteous attitude. But perhaps the worst part, Disney didn't seem prepared for the backlash, and Zegler kept doubling down. Her tone came off as combative, not inspirational. Instead of rallying new fans, she alienated old ones. Even former Disney collaborators reportedly began raising concerns. One industry veteran allegedly warned that Zegler was off-brand for the Disney princess image, and by the time early promotional clips started leaking, the damage was already done. Influencers began mocking the film on TikTok. Comment sections were flooded with calls for boycotts, and YouTube channels tore apart Zegler's interviews line by line, portraying her as ungrateful, arrogant, and out of touch. At the center of it all, the unanswered question, why did Disney ignore Spielberg's warning? Why bet their $200 million remake on a star with so much baggage? Because by this point, Rachel Zegler wasn't just controversial, she was becoming downright radioactive. And what happened next would prove just how costly that gamble truly was. By the time Snow White finally hit theaters, the damage was already done. What was supposed to be one of Disney's crown jewels, a modern reimagining of their very first animated feature, instead opened with a whimper. And insiders across Hollywood pointed to one name at the center of the fallout, Rachel Zegler. The early box office numbers were brutal. Despite months of high-budget marketing, merchandise rollouts, and international premieres, Snow White failed to crack expectations. During its opening weekend, theaters reported half-empty showings. Pre-sales lagged behind even modest projections. And critics? They weren't much kinder. Reviews called the film soulless, awkward, and confused about its own identity. Some praised the production design and Gal Gadot's performance as the evil queen. But the praise stopped there. Zegler's portrayal of Snow White was described as detached, robotic, and lacking the charm audiences expected from the iconic princess. Others said she looked like she didn't even want to be there, and that energy bled into every frame. But the poor performance wasn't just about what happened on screen, it was everything off-screen that sabotaged the release, months before. The premiere, Rachel Zegler's interviews had already gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Her infamous quotes dismissing the original film, mocking the romantic plot, and labeling the prince as a stalker sparked widespread outrage. TikTok creators stitched her clips with rolling eyes and sarcastic commentary. YouTube breakdowns of her worst moments racked up millions of views. The public perception? Zegler wasn't proud to be Snow White. She was embarrassed by it. That attitude infected the marketing. Disney, usually the master of controlling narratives, seemed completely out of their depth. Executives scrambled to shift the focus onto Godot or the film's technical achievements. Press tours were quietly scaled back. In some cities, premieres were canceled. There were even whispers that Disney considered delaying the release altogether, but it was too late. The budget was blown, the ads were everywhere, and the controversy couldn't be reversed. Worse, the backlash created a domino effect. Merchandise sales plummeted. Parents voiced concerns about taking their kids to see a movie clouded in negativity. Theme park integrations were reportedly put on hold, and rumors started swirling that Disney was reevaluating their entire lineup of live-action remakes going forward. The studio, once confident they had another Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast on their hands, now faced a completely different reality. They weren't launching a new franchise. They were trying to survive a PR crisis. Industry analysts quickly drew parallels to The Marvels, Indiana Jones 5, and other recent Disney flops, all part of a disturbing pattern of over-budget underwhelming. Releases fueled by internal disarray and misguided messaging. But Snow White felt different. This wasn't just another misfire. This was Disney fumbling their legacy, and the fallout was severe. Reports emerged that Bob Iger had called emergency meetings with the film division heads. Marketing teams were put under review, and the phrase course correction became a quiet mantra in every strategy call, because it wasn't just a movie that bombed, it was Disney's brand that took a hit, and looming over it all, the warning they chose to ignore. Spielberg told them he tried to save them from this, but they didn't listen. And now, with millions lost, a damaged princess brand, and a PR disaster still smoldering, Disney's left cleaning up a mess that could have been avoided with one word: no. Steven Spielberg's alleged warning about Rachel Zegler appears, in hindsight, to have been a prescient observation. The ensuing controversies underscore the intricate dynamics of modern filmmaking, where talent, public perception, and corporate interests intersect in unpredictable ways. As the industry continues to evolve, the lessons from this saga remain a cautionary tale for studios and stars alike.